After not playing the finals for a few months, I decided, screw it, time to retry it again. So back in the beta, it was pretty good in my opinion, but I was playing a lot of COD and probably some Fortnite back then. So when I finally came back to the game, seeing the progress it's made, it's been pretty great. So what I'm going to be doing is giving a few tips that I've learned here and there since I've come back. I hope that this can help other people who are just starting the finals, since it can be a little sweaty at times and can be a little hard, but generally it's still pretty fun games. So I hope that this can reach the right people. Something we can start with is something simple, things like communication. So starting off with that, something you can do is at the start of the match, just say hello to your team with the emote wheel, anything, your choice. This can help you establish that there's a chance that you can communicate with your team, you can communicate with each other through pings, or if you want to, you can also communicate through the voice chat they have. Honestly, it's just depending on how you feel, your choice, how you want to play the game. But something you should always be doing is trying to trying to ping things like the vault, the cash box, all that. But if you're playing in Discord, pinging can still help at times, but you can also communicate with your friends, your buddies to on like things on where the vault, go to which cash out, your choice. Really just how you feel about doing things. The second thing I think we'll go over is things like defense. Something you should always be making sure you should do is making sure whatever in your kit, like traps, try to place them down, make sure that they're over the cash out. Try to take a defensive position. You always want to make sure you place down your traps around the cash out, or at least in areas that people wouldn't expect it. That will catch enemies off guard and allow you to protect the cash out just fine. Some good tools you can use for defense would be any of the mines: pyro mine, gas mine, glitch mine, explosive mine. You can also use things like the proximity sensors so you can get a better general idea where an enemy is. This allows you to know which way to look when defending. You can also use things like turrets. Preferably, turrets are not that great, in my opinion, but you can still use them in a pretty good way, anyways. I think what we'll talk about next will be guns. There's multiple guns, many. I think the light class in general has almost 12 guns, but since you're gonna be starting off with something like medium, we're gonna have to find a gun that you might like. So something that's good would be things like the FCAR. The AK is good too. FAMAS, any of the ARs will work just fine. As I mentioned before, the light class has many, but the general good picks for light class would be things like the MP5, the M11, and also the double barrel. But you'll with the double barrel, you'll probably have to run evasive dash or invisibility. Last but not least, for the heavy, I don't play heavy much. Reason I don't have any form of gameplay to add. Um, the heavy class is either going to use something like the Lewis gun or the M60. Those are good picks, but if you want to, for those close range encounters, if you have things like mesh shield and dome shield, one of the best things to run with would be the SA-16, if I'm not wrong, but it's the rotation shotgun. You can also run with the sledgehammer because it's funny, it's stupid, but it's also a really good melee weapon over the spear, which has a really long, heavy attack. I don't know if I would really call it heavy attack though. Overall, all guns in the finals can be used no matter what. It's just that most guns in the finals will have be some form of meta or just be overall pretty good. One of the guns I made got finally got a buff after being nerfed and nerfed and nerfed over and over again was the Model 1887 finally got a buff once and for all. Finally, it's no longer a pea shooter and it can finally do damage. The next thing we'll go over are things like movement. Light class will always be the fastest class, while the medium is in that mid area of movement. Heavy will be the slowest class in the game. But there is also a slight difference. This won't be too much of a long section.
Relocating. Moving.
The three clips I have just shown are the distances of what each class will make during sliding. I don't know if it's fully accurate or not, but I believe myself that it is. So heavy will be pretty small sliding distance. Medium will make a slight more of a sliding distance. But when you're playing light, you'll have a much farther sliding distance both than heavy and medium class. So going through movement is a pretty simple thing to go through of one of these sections. I think the next tips I'll give are more like a simple tips, so I'll put this as for number 5 as just normal, tiny little simple tips that you can use while we play in game. Starting off with the explosive barrel, usually how it works is you just throw it and it will just go flying. It'll if it hits a building, it'll go and explode. But if you're up close, things like it ricocheting can happen, which can get annoying at times. So something you can do is if you throw it and then press or catch or grab, you can then hold it for a few seconds and then throw it again. If you wait long enough, it will be a pretty fast explosion, which can help in game against enemies. When it comes to zip lines, they don't need to be there. Something you can do is, if you want to, you can just melee attack it or shoot it, and the zipline will break, which is good when there's floating objectives. When it comes to being medium, you are mainly the support. So something you can use are defib and healing beam. These are a good matchup together. If you defib a down teammate, they'll be revived with half HP. Use the healing beam to heal the rest of it back. Something else that can be done with barrels is something like fire barrel or toxic or the gas barrel. Before you throw it, you should try to melee this barrel and then throw it. So it has a timer, just like the explosive barrel. Most of the melees will be very forgiving on its range. So something like the sword. If you try using your lunge attack, if you miss, as long as you try and stare at the enemy, it will still hit. So in the clip I'm showing now, I'm just demonstrating my point. So the sword is very forgiving at times. This includes the dagger. If you try to heavy attack, it's very forgiving on when it comes to the backstab. So generally, you can try it backstabbing basically wherever you want, but still try to aim for the back. When it comes to the Kodachis, they have the ability to ricochet. But when it comes to the ricochet, your bullets ricocheting will not hit the target unless your cursor or you're aiming directly at the enemy. So any ricochets could just go in any direction unless you're looking at the target. When it comes to the riot shield, something good you could do is instead of just meleeing normally, if you melee with the baton and then hit your regular melee button, you can decrease the amount of times you have to hit an enemy. Generally, I would say that's all the tips I really need to say, but I will say one final tip. Tip number 6. Don't leave because the fact that your team isn't winning or the match isn't going your way. When you leave the match, it makes it so your team is vulnerable to even losing even more. Sometimes you just have to try taking the loss, but also at the same time, you think you're going to lose, there's a chance that you don't lose. Overall, I would say over the time I've played the finals for the past few days, I've been enjoying myself every single second. even if my teammates can suck at times, which one of them sucking would be me. So, but I'm glad I came back to this game after so long. It's really been something else, and I've gotten past COD ever since. So, I'm glad I came back to the finals, and I hope that I can try to make some helpful videos if possible. And I hope that if you enjoyed the tips I have given, possibly next time I make another video, you'll enjoy that too. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.